And now, as the journey moves forward, something begins to shift. Not outside, not in the platform, but inside you. Because once you truly understand how YouTube works, once you see beyond the surface level idea of upload and grow, you start realizing that the real battle was never about the platform itself, and it was about your approach, your consistency, and your ability to adapt when things don't go as expected. There comes a point where you stop reacting emotionally to every result, every low view count, every slow day, and instead you start observing, analyzing, and refining like someone who is no longer guessing, but someone who is learning the system step by step, and that shift alone puts you ahead of most creators who are still chasing random success. Because the reality is simple but powerful. Most people fail not because they don't try, but because they stop too early, and the moment results don't come quickly, they assume the strategy is wrong, when in reality, the missing piece is usually patience combined with consistency. And patience is not just waiting. It is continuing to improve while you wait, because waiting without improvement leads nowhere. But waiting with progress builds momentum, and momentum is what eventually turns small efforts into noticeable growth. Now think about your content again, not as individual videos, but as a journey that your audience is experiencing, where each video adds value, builds trust, and strengthens your brand. And if you approach every upload with that mindset, your entire channel starts to feel more intentional, more focused, and more powerful. This is where many creators begin to separate themselves from the crowd, not by luck, but by thinking differently, by acting strategically, and by understanding that every decision they make contributes to the long-term success of their channel. And in that realization, something important becomes clear. Success is not a sudden event. It is a gradual buildup of small, consistent actions that eventually create something bigger than expected. So as you move forward from here, don't just focus on one video, one idea, or one result. Focus on building something sustainable, something that improves with every step, something that reflects your growth, not just as a creator, but as a thinker, a strategist, and a builder of your own future. Because at the end of the day, YouTube doesn't just reward content. It rewards creators who understand how to evolve, how to adapt, and how to keep going when most people would quit. And then comes the quiet realization that changes everything. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that settles deep inside your thinking. Because once you've understood the system, once you've seen how YouTube actually works, the illusion disappears. And what's left is clarity, responsibility, and control. Now you start noticing things you ignored before. Why some videos get clicked and others don't. Why some channels grow faster even with less content. And why certain creators feel like they own their niche while others struggle to even get noticed. And suddenly it becomes clear. The difference isn't effort alone, it's direction. Because effort without direction is like running fast without knowing where you're going. You might be moving, but you're not progressing toward anything meaningful. And that's where most creators lose time, energy, and motivation without realizing the root cause. But once you bring direction into your work, everything changes. Your decisions become sharper, your ideas become more focused, and your content starts aligning with a clear purpose instead of just being random attempts to stay active on the platform. And this is where your mindset evolves again, because now you're not chasing views. You're building a system that can generate them, and that shift removes a lot of stress, because now you understand that growth is not something you hope for. It's something you design over time. At this stage, you also begin to respect the process more because you realize that every video, even the ones that didn't perform well, contributed to your understanding. And without those experiences, you wouldn't have the awareness you have now. And that awareness is powerful. It allows you to create with intention, to analyze with honesty, and to improve with purpose. And that combination is what eventually leads to results that feel earned, not random. So instead of looking at your past channel as a failure, you start seeing it as a foundation, something that taught you what works, what doesn't, and what needs to change. And that shift in perspective turns your past into an advantage rather than a setback. Because the truth is, the creators who win are not the ones who never struggle. They are the ones who understand their struggle, learn from it, and use it to improve their future decisions. And now, standing at this point, you're no longer the same person who started this journey. You're more aware, more analytical, and more intentional, and that alone puts you on a completely different path.